And it has been a very busy legal week here in the world. So we start this half hour here with a closer look at some of the top trials and cases. And for that, joining us is ABC Legal Contributor Brian Buckmire. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about what we started talking about during the show, at the top of the show, the Delphi murders of Abby Williams and Libby German. We heard that incredible testimony from the sheriff saying that the suspect had actually himself gone to police just 3 days after the murder and then was sort of like lost in the system for years. What's the latest on that? Because what's the strongest argument? We know he's pleaded not guilty.
Yeah, so for the prosecution, some of the strongest arguments would be that shell casing that they said they were able to identify being close to the bodies that matches a gun that Richard Allen has, along with the testimony that we heard about his interrogation. Now, there is no video of the interrogation, so we have to look at it through the lens of the officer, which is not the greatest of lens if you're a defense attorney, but I think that's some of the strongest arguments. When it comes to the shell casing, depending on who you ask, it can be considered to be more art than science or science than arts. It's really just an observation of the bullet and saying, hey, when the bullet cycles through the gun, we can see the kind of markings on it, and because of the markings on it, we think it goes to this gun. So both sides are going to argue as to whether or not that's an accurate representation or not. When it comes to what we're going to see going forward, we've already seen the lieutenant talk about his interrogation. We're going to have more testimony about more interrogations to get more of a better view as to Richard Allen in this case.
Okay, that's going to be really fascinating to watch. Another one that we're watching is the former police officer due to take the stand in his own defense for that botched raid that led to the death of Breonna Taylor. He has pleaded not guilty to civil rights offenses. What can we expect in this federal trial? And I mean, many people are probably thinking, I remember hearing about this in 2020. How is this still a thing now? Yeah,
so the reason why you're still hearing about it is because this is actually Brett Hankinson's third trial. There was a state trial that he was acquitted of. There was a federal trial where there was a mistrial, and so they're trying him again for the second time. So if you're hearing it over and over again, it's multiple trials. And you're right, he's about to take the stand. And in fact, I was actually there for his state trial. I had the ability to interview Breonna Taylor's mother, speak to the defense attorneys after the acquittal, and even walk through the home where Breonna Taylor was killed. And I listened to some of his testimony, and I think when Brett Hankinson takes the stand, I think that's what's really having jurors having trouble with this case. Why it's been a mistrial the first time because they couldn't come to a decision. And I think his testimony tends to be very powerful, even though the evidence against him is very strong.
Wow, that must have been quite the experience for you walking through that home, too, and seeing all that evidence firsthand. I do want to turn to another case that's getting a lot of attention. We're talking about a rapper, Lil Durk, won a Grammy, now accused of this murder for hire plot and arrested. What more are we learning about this case?
Yeah, so if you're following Lil Durk, or aka Durk Banks, you know of his music going across genres even. What we're learning about this case is this is a murder for hire plot that resulted in a death. And so what the federal government is saying is that Lil Durk, along with 5 others, coordinated the death of an individual. And the information of the story goes is that an individual from one of his rap conglomerates based in Chicago was killed by a friend of the victim. And so the allegations is that Lil Durk wanted to set up other individuals killing this person. If you listen to like Aha by Lil Durk, unfortunately, it sounds like he's actually rapping to a confession of doing this.
Really?
And so when you think about the rap industry and music being allowed as evidence, this might be a case where some of his lyrics are actually used against him. And then, of course, the headline of him flying off to whether it be Switzerland, Italy, or Dubai, because he had tickets for all 3.
Right, tickets to all 3 on the same day.
Yeah, you guess which one doesn't have an extradition treaty. So the arrest has been kind of messy. He's going to be shipped back to California to hear these hear these charges along with the other co-defendants.
Something to watch closely. Very fascinating. Brian Buckmire, it's great to have you in the studio this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
On a Sunday. We'll talk to you soon.